terms of frictionless banking, and it is a word I completely agree that people use a lot. I think historically, when people thought about banking, the mindset was, I need to allocate some time in my day to go and do my banking or sit down and think about my banking. And I mean, my gosh, we've all got far too much to do as it is anyway. So I think the word frictionless has really evolved from trying to take effort out of the flow of people's lives and just saying, actually, if you had to allocate time, you had to think about it, and it was taking your energy, taking time out of your day. How do we create an experience that isn't that, that's seamless, that's integrated, that actually fundamentally you don't have to worry about? Right, you're not thinking, actually, I'm not really sure I understand all this stuff, but I need to go and deal with it. It's a bit hard. No one's ever really sat me down and explained it to me. And a really nice, simple example of that, and the way that I think frictionless is integrated into many of our lives is, when you open your phone with your face, right, and use Face ID. And a few years ago, you'd have been like, no, I'll just type in my passcode, it's fine. But now you completely take that for granted, that you just, look at your phone, it opens up, and you can do the same very often with banking apps. And actually what that does, which I think is brilliant, is it creates the frictionless piece. So it's simpler and easier, but it's also increasing security. So I think it's a really nice example of marrying reducing friction and stress, just making something a bit easier, but actually also improving the security for the customer because of the level of security inherent in biometrics. And I think that's something that adds a lot of value to customers and fundamentally helps them and helps reduce risk of fraud. So that would be a simple example I would share of how I think about frictionless. Ben, does that resonate with you, or do you have a different example? What do you think?
Yeah, no. I think to some extent it's a bit like a hierarchy of needs, if you like, because I worked in peer-to-peer lending before, and the notion was always around simple and safe. And I think the third thing for banking generally would be better value, because people still like the best rate on a savings product or the best rate on a loan. But I think your Monzo example really points to the next incarnation of that, which is those features that actually wow the customer, or you don't expect. Right, you go back to those sort of basal needs of simple and safe, and mortgage application can take a week, right? It can take 2 weeks, and customers just don't want that. So when it starts to get a little bit faster, that's where you get that, oh, this is very nice, and that's the frictionless angle. But it's that kind of next level that we're talking about around innovation, which really gets us into that space of ubiquitous banking, which is the wow factor, the 2-minute mortgage application in the journey of buying a home and so forth, that I think where banking can actually get to eventually.
So, Georgina, you were talking about biometrics in terms of kind of AI innovations that we're using on a day-to-day basis. Have you got any other kind of, if we kind of segue to AI and how that's helping in terms of the frictionless experience, have you got any other kind of ideas of innovations in artificial intelligence that we're already using within banking to help us on a day-to-day basis?
One really great example, actually, which is live across many institutions, but I'm on the call with Ben today, so just to take the HSBC example, where Ben spent a good proportion of his career, they apply AI within contact centres. And what that does is analyse the conversation with customers to help the person who's speaking to the customer take the next best action for that customer. So have you asked the customer about this? How could you consider helping this customer in the best way? But also HSBC use it for training. So actually understanding what conversations are coming through. So what are people ringing because they need help with? What's the best answer? How does that lead to a great customer experience? And they used to run machine learning models on that took a week. And actually, when we developed that with them with some AI technology, that they could then run that model actually in an hour. So suddenly the people who were talking to customers were getting feedback on the best way to possibly do that and do their job within an hour, right? And that's great for customers. But actually, fundamentally, it's really good for the people who are working in the call center, right? Because they get to have a much more rewarding job because they're getting great feedback in a much shorter period of time, and they can have much better customer conversations. And maybe when you're in a call center, you don't know that's happening, but very often it is actually. And that's an artificial intelligence that is widestream across banking right now, and I think adds a lot of value to both employees and to customers.